Good communication. I think they're working hard to understand new assignments and what needs to take place and their responsibility and role in that. And through a third of the practices that we've got done so far, I think they've improved quite a bit from that first day to where we are now in making sure we're aligned properly and have a chance to execute.
Everybody about the fourth, it's moving from the 4 to the 3-4. Everybody thinks about linebackers and linemen, but how does the responsibilities for the safeties change in the 3-4?
Well, they're potentially a little bit more involved in the run game based on call and formation sets. They could be primary run stoppers based on some of the stuff that we're doing. When I say a primary run stopper, I'm talking about a guy who's expected to be able to make a tackle within 4 yards of the line of scrimmage. Probably happens with more frequency than what we've done in the past.
Obviously, Coley and Ramirez are pretty physical guys. How do you feel about Lydell and some of the other safeties?
Well, I think Josh is too. I think Josh has played better in close quarters than he has in open space. And he knows that's a weakness of his, and he knows it's something that he's got to improve this spring. I think he's done a nice job of addressing that in the first 5 practices.
Like how so?
By practicing the correct fundamentals necessary to make those plays, bending his knees and moving his feet and staying square as opposed to crossing over and being straight-legged and taking poor angles.
What do you look for out of the scrimmage Saturday?
Well, I'd like to be as assignment clean as we can be. A lot of times offensive success is a direct result of poor defensive alignment. So I'd like to see us aligned properly. I'd like to see us play fast and straining every play through the whistle. And I'd like to see us tackle well.
Are you guys going to tackle to the ground?
We will.
That's going to be the first time?
It will be. Yep, it will be.
How much are you looking forward to real live tackling?
Well, I think you get a measure on some of these plays that are counting as tackles because you're there and thudding up or tagging off. Now we've got to see if we'll finish it and finish it with the same aggressiveness that you are when you know you don't have to take him to the ground.
A lot of the defensive linemen say they don't have to think as much. There's not as much they have to do in their head on the line. How much has the defensive line changed, maybe what you're asking them to do from the previous defense that they played?
I'd say that's accurate. I think there are less techniques that they're going to have to use overall, and there's certainly less techniques now than would have been in at practice 5 a year ago. The thing about being closer to the ball, so D-line to linebackers and linebackers to secondary, is it happens so fast. And if they're not being able to be free thinkers and knowing exactly what they're supposed to do and do it violent and do it fast, then they don't have a chance to be successful, and that's one of the things that we want to accomplish.
How's Michael Taylor? I've heard a lot about his physical abilities. Brett talks about he's probably the best pass rusher. What have you thought of him so far?
Well, I see a guy who's in transition. He's learning a new position, and I think that shows. I think there's some indecisiveness and hesitation because of that. We got to get him to the point where he fully understands not just what his responsibility is. Well, I'm supposed to be outside here. Okay, that's one thing. Now, how do you do that? How do you do that with speed and precision and knee bend and the things necessary for you to do it very efficiently at an SEC level?
I'm doing a pretty complete kind of position glance at the safeties. Could you mind breaking down like who all's at free safety, who's all at strong safety, even guys that are working at like third, or just guys that are at safety?
Yeah, free safety 3 deep would be Josh Liddell, Reed Miller, D.D. Edwards, and 3 deep at the strong safety would be Dre Coley, Santos Ramirez, and Micah Smith.
And who else are?
Brendan Young is there playing, and Ryder Lucas is there playing. Those are 8 guys.
Those are all safe. Obviously, you didn't really lose anybody from the safety position, and you had 3 guys that played it primarily, Coley, Ramirez, and Josh. I mean, how do you feel about the experience factor?
Well, I feel very good about the experience factor, not only there, but in the room with the playing time that Henre's had and Ryan's had and Kevin Richardson's had. So of all the position groups on the field, that's where the back end has a little bit of a leg up on everybody else.
And I think Josh said the other day he's more of a center fielder now maybe than he was in the old scheme. Is that did I understand that correctly?
That's part of it, and I wouldn't say that's different than a year ago because we were playing a middle of the field safety a year ago, and he might just be doing it with more frequency at this point.
He's kind of like Josh as the leader. I think he's got 26 starts or something like that. You kind of see him as the leader of
the safety group. I think any time that you've played as much as he has and you have the intelligence that he has and the work ethic that he has, I think that puts you in a position. Now you got to back that up. I think without doing things well, I think that credibility leaks out a hole in the bottom of a bucket pretty fast.
Offense has got well over half of their stuff installed. I'm guessing it's probably a little different for you guys.
Golly. That's a lot. Yeah. I don't know how much we got in the playbook, so I don't know what percentage we'd be at this time. Well, I tell you this: we're 100% of our playbook is in. Is where we're at right now. We've not put a lot in for good reason. So many of the techniques are new for individuals. So many of the individuals are new to the technique. We got young players up front. If you don't get great at the techniques that you have to play well throughout, doesn't matter what scheme or calls or what you're doing with the guys. So we've moved slowly. We'll continue to move slowly. We'll get a few more things done in the next 10 practices. But I don't have all these calls circled and say, I've got to get these in this spring. We'll advance as fast as we can, and we threw some new calls at them to do today, and I thought they handled that well, which was encouraging.
The players said they started doing some nickel stuff on Tuesday, a little bit of that. How much more have you guys progressed with that? And who is the nickel?
Kevin Richardson is our nickel back right now, and we did a little bit more than we did on Tuesday. Added in another coverage that we utilized the nickel back with. So much of the personnel that we face involves at least 3 wide receivers. So we're going to have a thorough nickel package. But sometimes the nickel package is the same as your base package. It's just a substitution of one guy executing a technique.
Thanks. Talked to you a little bit last week about how you handle the workload for yourself. When you break it down, how much are you getting to spend analyzing the defense during practice, or is it more just you working with your group and then after practice when you really sit down? A
little combination of both. It depends on what phase we're in practice. Today we did some new things, and I wanted to focus on some of the scheme that was being executed. I'm fortunate that we've got a secondary GA in Mark Sheridan who's been with me the whole time. Matter of fact, he was here before I got here. So he's well versed, and he does a nice job of coaching the back end, and he can pick up that slack if I turn my attention to the guys up front and what's taking place up there. But most of that coaching of the defense and what's taking place is done through film work and meetings after we get off the field. Most of the attention is to the back four when we're out there.
Yeah, but Brett said he had to take, I guess last Saturday he had to kind of sit Coley out a little bit because he was a little too aggressive. I mean, is that something part of you like to see that, or just as a defensive coach, what do you think about that?
Well, it's a learning curve. It was our first day out in pads, and our first day of teaching. More so than reminding, teaching our guys how we practice in pads to help our teammates out and keep our football team healthy. And he wasn't necessarily being over aggressive. He just wasn't being smart in his angle and how he was finishing. I don't want that to reflect that he was being a dirty player and unsportsmanlike type of player. He would just need to be taught. So the fact that he got thrown off the field maybe is my fault. I didn't do a good enough job of teaching him. We haven't had a guy thrown off the field since then, so I think they understand better.
So Coley's responded well to that?
Oh yeah. There's no problem in understanding why Coach sat him out after that took place. And when Coach says he threw him out for the rest of those plays. I mean, he didn't throw him out of practice or anything like that.
What is Saturday looking like for you guys? You got more calls ready to go? I mean, how deep in?
We put some more things in today. We'll have enough to address the situations that Coach is going to put us in, which will be first, second, and third down. Not in a thorough fashion, but enough to at least give us a call that we might play in any of those situations, whether it be third and short, third and long, second and normal, whatever position we might find ourselves in.
Burrito done since coming off of that injury here this spring?
I think Burrito's doing very well. He's taking part in every practice. I think there's some soreness starting to probably creep in a little bit, which everyone would expect. I think he's handling that well. I think he's gotten tougher from practice 1 to 5, and that's what we need him to do. He's missed a lot of practice time and a lot of opportunity to get better as a cornerback since he got hurt in the middle of August.
I guess Coley started the last, 4 games. I mean, what are you seeing out of him right now?
I think he's a guy that the game of football is very important to. He wants to please. He knows the importance of doing things right to have the opportunity to be on the field. If you're not getting aligned right and being where you're supposed to be, the next pieces, they're making a play on a ball or making a tackle, they handle themselves. But if you're not in location to do that, you got no chance. And he knows the importance of that.
And Ramirez, how's he? It seems like his deal was more consistency. You get seeing more consistency.
Yeah, well, and a little durability factor too. Santos had some nicks and some injury things that hurt his ability to prepare fully on the field and be at full speed for a good bit of the season. So, if there's a position that we've got great competition taking place at right now, I'd say it'd be at strong safety.
Are both those guys getting first 1 reps?
They're both getting equal reps throughout a practice for the most part. And there's a good possibility that both will run with the ones a little bit on Saturday.
And the part of the practice, sorry, Bob, the part of the practice we got to see on Saturday, the defensive backs looked like they handled their own against the receivers. How has their first week and a half gone for you in their progression?
Well, I thought Saturday, maybe after you left, was probably our weakest day. And that didn't surprise me because it was the first day in pads, as I mentioned before. And you got to get used to carrying those pads. You got to get used to bending your knees, and when you get a little fatigued of not running with your chest over grass, you're keeping your numbers back over your knees. And I think Tuesday's practice was by far our best of the first 4, which it should be, right? You're 4 into it, but it was there was no question it was our best practice. They embraced the techniques that they should have been using. Where Saturday they sort of left those behind at times and just tried to compete for the ball. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of discipline that goes into what you're supposed to do, and I thought they showed that much better than the last 2 days.
How do you feel like Coley and Ramirez are both handling that position battle? Because I think one of them started 7 games last year and one started 6. They almost split it.
Yeah, you know what? You wouldn't even know they're in a position battle. You'd think they were best friends, and the team is the most important thing. And that's very pleasing to me to see guys out there working like that and not overly concerned with who's the one, who's the two, just both working to get better, and it showed in their level of play.
Do you feel like it's making them practice better? Coaches always talk about liking competition.
Yeah, I believe it probably is, but I think both of those young men have enough maturity. I don't know if they'd even need that. They both take the field every day looking to improve and looking to be coached.
You feel pretty good about that position overall? Not a lot of star power, but experience and solid guys.
What you say is very accurate, and I think it's accurate with our entire defense. There is no star power. There's no star power in the back end, even though we have experience. There's no star power anywhere in the front 7, and we've talked about that. And that's okay, as long as we'll play 11 as one and play together as a defense and play disciplined Razorback football. We'll have a chance to play good defense.
What do you feel about the work that Scuda and Dwayne are giving you right now in the middle while Dre's out?
I think where Scuda was on day 1 of spring practice to where he was at the end of fall football was up here. And that's with no football practice. That was just through maturity. Off-season weights, off-season conditioning, off-season hog and ease, and now practice 5, he's gone from 1 to 5 like this. Dwayne, as you would expect, he's a veteran player. He knows how to practice. He knows the physicality that's involved with SEC football. I think he's responding to Coach Hargrave's coaching. But like anybody else, Up there is a little bit different. You know, the safety's not as much, but up there quite a bit different. So he's not starting over like a freshman because he understands what it takes to play linebacker, but there is a certain learning curve that he's going through.
The way Coach Walker was talking about the outside linebackers, they're a little bit more flexible, versatile than I was thinking. One's not so heavy. The hog's not just the heavy stuff.
Right.
And the razor's not just the safety stuff.
They both got to be able to do what the other one does. And we could be in a position where they are mirrored and flipped and doing whatever the call asks for them to do. In the perfect world, if we had the ideal amount of time to line up every time, their body types match what we'd like to do with them positionally. A little bit bigger, more physical guy in the hog spot with the ability to pass rush and be on a tight end, and the razor guys a little bit more in space, but still being able to come off the edge. I think Coach Walker's doing an excellent job of transitioning these guys to our 3-4 scheme.
Motion and H-back shifts can make them to where they're –
I go like this in my sleep.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm saying is they have to be able to play both sides.
They have to be able to play both sides. That's exactly right. And we get plenty of that from our offense. We don't get shortchanged in that regard. So you're exactly right. Whether it's a trade or a shift or a motion, right. They could become the other guy like that.
I'm curious to what you see from Kevin Richardson that you forgot you had last year and lost, and what he's given you in those 5 days.
He's so intelligent. He's coach-like and intelligent. That probably sounds like I don't know what it sounds like, but he's a very smart football player, and I appreciate that very much. And we've missed that because it's not just his position that plays better because of that intelligence. It's the conversations that he has on the sideline. It's the communication that takes place on the field when he's out there, and it's the production that goes along with it. I have stated this before. People don't appreciate how much we missed Kevin Richardson last season.
How much did last year? I know you don't want to lose a guy, but how much did he maybe grow being on the sideline, watching that from a different perspective with the headset on during the game and getting some of that work there?
First of all, you got to have the maturity to handle that, which he does. I think you just probably get a little bit more appreciation for God's gift of health and having the ability to play this game. And now with only 1 year left, he's probably working awfully hard to take advantage of that as he sharpened his skills as a on the sideline guy last season.
Paul, is he a little bigger? I mean, is he?
He is a little heavier, not a lot, but he is a little heavier. I think there was some limitations, with that pec injury of what he could do for so long. But he is a little bit heavier. The wind doesn't blow him down.
Will y'all let him tackle Saturday?
Yeah, he's full go. Brito, we got to wait and see. I don't know if the trainers are going to let him go.
Has Kevin tackled in the last week?
We have not tackled the ground.
First time?
Yes.
He didn't tackle in bowl practices, did he?
No. Probably was a little bit more aggressive than he should have been, but he did not tackle.
You think he's nervous about that?
No, I haven't sensed that at all.
Yeah.
Haven't sensed that at all. Probably won't have that conversation with him either.
You got a good idea for how many full tackle reps y'all going to have?
That arm probably getting a little tired, huh? Double dipping like that. I'm sorry.
Any idea how many full tackle reps maybe?
No. Brett's got an idea on that and hasn't fully shared that with us as a staff. So we like to practice here, so we'll probably go for a little bit.
You spent your time as head coach, now you're defensive coordinator. How did that time at Iowa State help you?
In what regard?
Just in your position now as a defensive coordinator.
Well, I was a coordinator for 9 years before I became a head coach, so I think it's just like putting on a pair of old shoes, and I think every day I get a little bit more comfortable with what I got to do, and quite honestly remember this and that needs to go with what I'm doing or what I'm preparing. I'm not green behind the ears when it comes to this.
When you think of Kevin and his ability to tackle, is that something that you think you might have missed last year?
Well,
he was pretty sure
he brings such a relentless effort to everything that he does. Part of the reason why he got hurt, because he plays so hard, and he's not going to miss an opportunity to be involved in the action. So I think that ability to strain and play so hard is noticed by teammates.